Previously on the Sugar Baby Confessionals.
Thankfully, I'm not so hairy that I need to have my back waxed. I was just so not interested in sex. Not even with myself. I'd rather just love the body I have than lament over the body that I could never have. Men look at me and they love my body. With the Brit in particular, it's about the no strings attached. He has asked to see me once a week. We were just at it nonstop from like 9 o'clock at night until 1 o'clock in the morning. And so he's gone out on a couple of different dates with different people, and he's one of them he's really kind of clicked with.
In this week's episode, Pound Cake, we're talking about cash. Initially, I'd planned to do this with Madeline, but it's tough to get a time that suits 3 people on 3 different continents. What can I say? None of us are really up for doing it at like 2 a.m. in the morning. So next week we'll hear what she has to say. With both women, we're going to drill down into specifics. How much, when, and for what. And ultimately, we'll discover where the money really can buy you love.
Hello, Ruby.
Hello, SD. How are you?
I think we both had a late night last night, so this is going to be very interesting for very different reasons.
I am a little bit loopy. I'm just warning you now. I might start giggling for no apparent reason. My apologies in advance if I seem a little too crazy.
Why is that?
I had a date with my sugar daddy.
Right.
It was wonderful. We had so much fun. We just fucked for like 10 hours straight.
Which sugar daddy was this again?
The Brit.
Your current fave.
Oh, he's so my favorite. I really, really like him.
So take me through the evening. If he had some moves, it'd be good to hear about the moves. And
We actually met for lunch. That's how early in the day it started. I suggested to him that we try out a role play because, well, let me back up for a second. Ordinarily, this particular sugar daddy and I, we'll get together and do something, watch a movie or have dinner together, and then we'll go back to his house because he's a single man. So logistically, that's very convenient. But this week he has a visitor staying with him, and for whatever reason, I guess he doesn't really want the two of us to bump into each other. So he rented a hotel room, which was really lovely, I have to say. It was at a beautiful 5-star, sumptuous
Can I just ask
place.
you, how did you feel about him not wanting you to bump into this character? Because the implication is, well, you're
I totally understand what you're saying. And I think that if it had been a different visitor, then it might not have been such a big deal.
Was it his mom?
No, it's not his mother. But it is a woman that he's actually had sex with before. So he kind of spilled the beans for me last night and filled me in. Actually, it's a fabulous story. This woman sounds completely insane. It's a woman that he met about, 2 years ago. They're both into boating. So they met doing some kind of boating class or something like that. And, at the time they were both kind of going through rough patches in their marriages. His broke up. He's been divorced now for almost 3 years. And hers looked like it was going that way. And in fact, she told him that she and her husband were separating back then. And so the two of them had a night together, and he said it was okay. She's like a nice enough person, and sex was decent. And then apparently, like the next day, she was just changed her tune and went back to her husband, and he was like, "Oi, like if I'd known that was even a possibility, I wouldn't have slept with you. That makes me feel kind of weird, So back to being friends. Fast forward 6 months, now she's singing this song again about how, she's going through such a rough time because she and her husband are breaking up and she just needs to get away from it all. So she wanted to come and visit him. And he, being the very kind person that he is, said, "Sure, you can come and stay with me, but let's be clear about this. We're only friends." And she said, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." And then she arrived and he walked her bags into his guest bedroom and put them down. And he said, okay, this is where you're going to be staying. And apparently she was just crestfallen. So over the next 2 days, she kept sending him messages. Like they would be in the same room and she would send him a Facebook email or a text message with these comments like, fancy a shag? And he would just turn to her and look at her and go like, what are you doing? What are you on about? Like, first of all, you're sitting 3 feet from me watching TV. Why wouldn't you just talk to me? And second of all, I don't even have to answer that question. And she said to him, that's a yes then. And he was like, no, that is not a yes. Yeah, so I think that this particular visitor of his was probably a very bad person to introduce to his
she sounds a wee bit stalkery.
Yeah, so lucky for him, I guess she got irritated with the fact that he wasn't giving it up, and so she left early. Like, she's gone already. He has a very clear sense of what's right and wrong, and he's told me on a couple of occasions that he always tries to do the right thing. You know, life can be complicated, but no, I really like that about him. I find that really admirable.
The Brit's not paying me anything, so I feel like I can say I don't particularly find his pangs of conscience admirable. Why does he feel like he has to state that he always tries to do the right thing? It feels like he's building up a case for himself as a nice guy. I don't know quite what it is about that bothers me. Maybe it's just that I feel uncomfortable with how much Ruby likes him because I'll always be on FP's side. And yeah, I know there are no sides, but I'm still on one. I suppose I just feel that nice guys don't have to keep telling you how nice they are. Yeah, that's it. Okay, back to being neutral.
I was just wondering how you guys felt about if your partner is maybe being dishonest with their partner. I mean, your sugar daddy. How does that make you feel?
I try very hard not to judge other people, but I think that there are certain people who are kind of dodgier than others, I suppose. You know, so if we take Mankini, for instance, I think he's actually a genuinely sweet person. You know, he's a very loving person. I can tell that he really cares about his wife and he wants to be close to her. He just doesn't know how, you know, and he has these needs that he wants to fulfill. And so, you know, he's going about fulfilling them in a way that obviously wouldn't make her happy. But at the same time, I don't know. Is that better than him leaving her? I don't know. I mean, that's not for me to say. So for me to interact with someone like him, I feel fine about it, you know. I might feel a little sad for the two of them as a couple because if he's not happy, then chances are she isn't either. Yeah. That's just how it works in a marriage. Yeah, and then if I take Frenchie, another potential sugar daddy.
New one.
He's actually an old one who's already gotten the axe.
Sugar daddy number 5. Frenchie.
Favorite person didn't like him, so he was vetoed.
Oh yes, you told me that he was really gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, drop dead gorgeous. Such a good kisser. I really wanted him in the sack, but he just kind of kept giving me the runaround. He already had another mistress, not a sugar baby, someone who wanted to meet and screw all the time. So he said to me that he didn't, you know, at the moment he didn't really have time to fit me into his schedule between work and wife and kids. He's got 2 young sons and of course the mistress. And he had previously been caught cheating on his wife, so she's all up in his grill about what he's doing and where he is. And
sounds like a lot of drama. Yeah.
Oh, that's drama, you know, and the thing is, he's very charming and, like I said, beautiful and amazing kisser. So I was kind of, I don't know, I think hypnotized a little bit by all of that. But my favorite person stepped in and said, no, this guy is just trouble.
Bad news.
I don't want you interacting with someone who treats people like this.
Right.
And I think he was right. So FP says it, and right then and there, I send the text message to go, sorry, can't talk to you anymore. And Frenchie's reaction was quite mean. actually.
Oh no. What did he say?
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever had anybody respond in that way. I mean, it wasn't over the top, but just like, oh, fuck it then. It's like, come on now.
From what I've heard about people who've been on Tinder and things like that, it does sound like it's not actually unusual, even in the normal dating world, for, I mean, predominantly guys. I'm sure that there are girls that behave like this as well, but it sounds like predominantly men come back with these really, if you sort of, as they see it, reject them, even if you're incredibly polite about it, they can be really rude back. It is just, because, I mean, some people would say, well, that's what you get. He probably thinks you're not worth being polite to because you're sort of doing something in the sex trade.
You know what? People, they feel hurt and they lash out. And I completely understand. I mean, that's what he was doing. He wanted my attention. He kept trying to convince me to sleep with him without doing the sugar baby thing.
Yeah.
He just wanted me to be another mistress number 2. And I made it very clear that is not what I'm interested in. That's not what I'm looking for right now. So we actually had quite a flirtation. I mean, he would send me so many text messages throughout the day. I think in his way, he probably really did like me, but it just wasn't going to work. So bye-bye, Frenchie.
So back to the Brit.
Yes. So we went to a hotel, right? Because he had this visitor, this crazy-ass woman staying with him. And because it was going, our rendezvous was going to be in a hotel, I thought, why don't we play this up a little bit and do something fun and try a role play? So I suggested that to him, that, we are work colleagues and he tries to seduce me kind of thing. And I'll pretend to be a different person. I'll have different, I didn't do an accent. I was a little too embarrassed. It's still early days with him.
So. Yeah. Do you want to crack out the grandpappy yet?
Grandpappy. Yeah, grandpappy stayed at home. Yeah, it was fun. So he'd never done anything like that before, but he was willing to give it a try. It's another one of the things that I really like about him. He's extremely adventurous. So whatever I suggest, he's like, yeah, let's try it. So we met at a restaurant that was just down the street from the hotel where he'd booked a room, and I had such a lovely lunch. The conversation with the Brit just flows so easily. And he always has the most amazing stories. I mean, this guy's life is just fantastic. The things that he's done, the places he's been, and he's so humble about it too. Really, really like him.
What does he do? I mean, if you can give us a sense of his sort of status, is he high up in a company or?
Yeah, and in more than one company.
Right, I see. Okay.
Owns shares and things like that. I have to say, he wasn't terribly good at the role playing.
I guess it's not for everyone, is it?
Yeah, well, and it was the first time. I think that he had a really good time. I mean, I certainly did. And
I think it's difficult for some people, and I include myself in this, because every time I've, since our discussion thinking about role playing with my partner, I think I would just be sort of cracking up laughing the whole time. We'd both have to make sure that we were, right, we're going to do this now, we're going to do it 100%, no dropping the role, you've got to...
Well, but you can, right? You can. I mean, the whole idea is to just have fun. And so if you wind up laughing about it, I mean, that's okay too, as long as you're enjoying each other's company.
Can you tell us what the role play was at all?
Sure. He was himself. I told him, just go with just go with what you know. Just pretend you don't know who I am.
Oh, I see. I see. So he wasn't like he didn't have to pretend to be like a pilot who's kind of
No, I wanted to take it easy on him the first time around. So what I suggested is that he just plays himself, and that I play a person that he has hired to consult with his company on a particular project. And he's supposed to try and seduce me.
Imagine if you got another job out of this. Remember that role-playing session that we did, and you impressed me with your skills.
Oh my goodness, that would be really funny.
Have another Madeline situation on our hands.
Oh no. Yeah, actually maybe not so funny. Yeah, so that was the scenario, and I came to him with a list of questions and just making things up and like, oh, have you spoken to this person about that? And he just looked totally lost. I told him the next time we do a role play, he can just go to a bar somewhere and I'll show up at an unexpected time and try to pick him up. And we can pretend that we don't know each other. And he said, well, okay, but that would probably take you all of 30 seconds, even if I didn't know you. No,
he
man.
might be the kind of person who actually needs a character. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, be yourself. It's kind of more difficult, perhaps, because if you're in a role, it sort of forces your brain to turn on that sort of imaginative side. And maybe that would have, worked a little bit better.
Maybe. We'll see next time. I'm sure I can convince him to give it another go. So we met in the early afternoon, and we wound up sharing 2 bottles of wine. Holy moly, I was so drunk. And then I think by the time we got to his hotel room, it was about 7 in the evening. And from that time until 5 o'clock in the morning, all we did was have sex.
Is this dude a vampire or something? Does he just lie there in a coffin, recouping his strength until the next sex session? My husband and I feel like we've done well if we do 40 minutes. I hesitate to ask if Viagra is involved. Ruby seems convinced it's down to pure stamina, but seriously, I mean, no wonder she's besotted.
Wow.
It was amazing. I am so impressed with his stamina.
I can't even picture that. 10 hours straight. That just seems superhuman to me. That's like a superpower.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there were like little mini breaks, like we'd stop actually thrusting for 20 minutes, half an hour, just chat or something. But at no time did we stop touching each other.
Did you go through the whole Kama Sutra? Was it like page 1?
Oh man, that's actually a good idea.
Did we do the standing goat on a mountaintop position yet? Or
yeah, I think that you're giving me ideas. See, look, you're giving me tips now. I'll have to I used to have a copy of the Kama Sutra years ago, but I have no idea where it is now, so I'll probably have to buy a new one.
I would have thought you'd have a really well-thumbed copy.
Oh, all of that stuff is committed to memory. I'm just bad with the names, Frog on a log and prancing unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. That's my favorite.
So, hence me being very, very tired.
When you got back, did you and your favorite person reconnect in your usual way, or was it too late? Too early in the morning?
No, we did. I don't know how helpful I was. I was so tired, but yeah, we talked about everything. We spoke about my night and his night, and we did reconnect, as you say. And it was lovely. I really liked that. I mean, in the moment, I was kind of half thinking like, oh, I'm so tired, just let me sleep. But after about 5 minutes of having skin on skin, you're like, ooh, okay. This is actually really nice. Thanks. It was over an hour with him.
Wow. Okay. Tell me about going from one guy to another like that. Is that especially if someone is from someone incredibly intimate with you, knows you inside and out, from a guy who doesn't to that? Is it?
It turns me on how much favorite person gets aroused when I've been with someone else. Like his lust incites my lust.
Feeds off each other.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Do you tell the sugar daddies that this happens, or is that a private thing for you and favorite person?
Yeah, I tell them. Yeah, the Brit knows.
Well, how do you think he feels about it?
I think he feels totally fine, very relaxed about it. In fact, I think that he realizes that it's in his best interest to make sure that favorite person is happy. I don't know if it's because from the very beginning, I'm just very upfront and honest and open. With the exception of Frenchie, who just had his own weird dramas going on, nobody I've interacted with has tried to insert themselves between favorite person and me, or try to put him down or make himself look better or anything like that. I mean, all of them get there is no competition. It's not about that, so don't even try, because then you'll just ruin everything.
You'd have to sort of sever the ties, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to spend time with somebody who doesn't respect my life.
What is it like when I don't know how often this has happened, where you've spent the whole night and you only got 2 hours of sleep, and not even consecutively. How does that work with your family life? Because you've got children and responsibilities.
Of course. Well, I am relying very heavily on my nanny today. Thank goodness for her. I have to say, I don't think I would be able to go out on a date in the middle of the week, at least the extended kind of date that I had, if I didn't have domestic help. That's one thing that I know that I'm very spoiled with, is having wonderful help with my kids.
A few days later, we catch up again, and Ruby drops a bombshell.
I guess we can get started with the theme for today, which is cash. So
can I tell you one more thing?
Of course,
kind of a big development.
Yes,
for me.
Please do. Yeah.
I have decided that I want to be exclusive with the Brit. And it's something that I'm kind of surprised about myself, but that's just what feels right to me. I was thinking, if Mankini gets in touch with me, which he hasn't thus far, and wants to set up another meeting, I wouldn't want to see him.
Really?
Even with the money that he's going to pay me. And yeah, and I like him. He's a nice person, but I'm just not interested anymore.
Is that because you have developed feelings for the Brit and you kind of want to, as it were, be loyal to him?
Yeah, I think that must be what it is. He's just so awesome. I feel like if I have spare time to spend with someone, I would rather spend it with him and get to know him better than to spread myself out. And oh gosh, that was a really bad pun.
Spread your legs out.
Sorry.
Well, it's pertinent to the theme for today anyway, which is cash, because it will mean that you make less cash. And I was assuming that one of the objectives of doing this was to make some extra cash.
It was. I guess it still is. But I just don't want the cash enough to spend time with people that I don't want to spend time with.
Because you don't really need the cash per se, whereas Madeline, it sounds like the cash is a much more important aspect of it for her. She was saying that she felt, for the first time in her life, she felt more financially stable, and it was something that she was doing for herself.
Yes, that's absolutely right. I am very fortunate that the place that I'm coming from is not one of need. It's one of eroticism. The whole reason that I got into this is because it's just a real turn on for me to have a sugar daddy. And that makes it a lot more comfortable for me to be able to say, like, oh, you know what? I like this guy. I'm sticking with him.
Because there's an interesting tension that arises in this case, because Madeline, one would assume, because she needs the money, she might make choices that she's less happy with. For example, you can make a choice between, if you don't like Frenchie, he's bringing too much drama, you can cut him out. Whereas Madeline, she might be more inclined to do things she's not as comfortable with because she needs the money.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that therein lies the imbalance that can creep into this kind of relationship if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think it's the fundamental difference between talking about these relationships as an evolved way of a new way of looking at relationships, and anytime the money becomes the predominant factor, it always seems like something creeps in that's not quite as wholesome. If I can even use
savory.
that word. Yeah, exactly, not savory. And I that's my worry for Madeline, is that
I worry about that too. The good thing about Madeleine is that she is a very strong person. She has a very strong personality. She knows herself very well. So as her friend, I do trust in the fact that if she is really, truly unhappy with how something is making her feel about herself, then she won't do it.
This is a tricky one, because sometimes people can't see that they're in a bad situation. We rationalize away all the warning thoughts that tell us it's worth getting out of Dodge. But if you need the money, if it's the difference between making rent or not, boundaries can slip. Besides, with Madeleine, we already know she has a marquee-shaped blind spot that keeps her from seeing that he might be taking advantage of her. But more on that next week.
Share your file brave. Another thing not complete. To-do list I never did. Deadlines I'll seldom meet.
Basically, I think the worst that she would put up with is someone who's kind of dull, that she doesn't feel like a full connection with,
Right.
because she wants the money, you know?
Well, that's good to know. That is a big relief. I think the whole thing, we'll talk about it with her, but the whole relationship with the Marquis, there's a lot of power and economics, cash involved in the sense that he is her boss.
If he asks her to do something, you know, she's got to do it.
She's got to hop to it. So you going steady with the Brit. I mean, do you worry that...
That's such a cute way of saying it.
Do you worry that
going steady? He's pinned me. About 24 times.
Do you worry that you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket? I mean, it sounds like for him he'd be the kind of person to draw a line under things if he began a relationship with somebody else.
I'm sure he would. If that happens, honestly, I would be really happy for him, because it's extremely clear to both of us that, you know, what we're enjoying with each other now is the sum total of where it's going to go. I mean, I'm happily married. I've got a family, so it's not like you can expect anything else from participating in my life. When the time comes that he finds an actual partner or someone that he wants to start properly dating, I'll be really happy for him. He's such a great person. You know, he deserves to kind of wind up with the right lady. I'll be sad because, as you say, he's just the kind of person who says, okay, we're not doing this anymore, we're doing this. And things are very clear cut. But that'll be okay. I'll be able to handle it if and when that happens.
Also, in terms of the cash, I remember you telling me that of all of the sugar daddies, he kind of, you sort of had to bargain quite strongly to get, you know, the money that you were looking for. And in fact, you ended up on a compromise.
He definitely gives me much less of an allowance than I would accept from anybody else, because I like him so much. Right. And I'm okay with that. I feel really comfortable with the arrangement that the two of us have come to.
You wouldn't keep looking for other people of the same caliber as the Brit?
Well, let me put it this way. I haven't closed down the profile that I have up on a website. It's the site on which the Brit found me. So that's still there. And if somebody contacts me, I'll go and read his profile and look at any pictures that I can see. If someone piques my interest, you know, maybe I would get in touch. At this moment, I don't really see that happening. Basically, what I'm saying is that I'm not closing myself off. I'm just not out there looking.
Right.
Did I mention anything about Chevalier?
No.
No. Okay. Well, that's obviously not his real name. He contacted me through this same website, and we emailed back and forth quite a bit. Seemed like a very cool person. We were connecting quite well, has very similar taste in books and movies and music and so on. So the conversations we were having through email were really cool. And we met for breakfast, and we were attracted to each other. I quite liked him, and when it came time to work out an arrangement, the figure that I gave him that I wanted for an allowance was so outrageous that he didn't even bother writing back to me. And favorite person asked me why I had done that, you know, like why I have this little system about how I get a sugar daddy to agree to an arrangement, and it works quite well. And I didn't follow that system. I just immediately went, bleh, this is what I want. which was, I mean, even I knew when I said it, like, this is ridiculous what I'm asking for. And when FP first asked me that, I wasn't really sure. Then it occurred to me that I was quite relieved that Chevalier just let it go. And that's when it occurred to me, no, okay, if I'm sabotaging efforts to develop a new sugar daddy, that should say something to me about how I want to be spending my time. Right. So it was actually that little experience that the light bulb finally went off in my brain, and I went, it's because I really like the Brit. And I don't want to see anybody else right now.
I mean, some people might say that's a little bit of a red flag that you like him so much.
A red flag in terms of it being threatening to favorite person?
Yeah, I mean, just in the sense of, we were talking about residual effects, emotional residual effects with regard to Madeline and the Marquis. The Marquis saying, I can just cut it off at any time and, just carry on with life, despite the fact that they are incredibly emotionally entangled. You sort of won't acknowledge that. And, you sort of worry that hearing you talk about the Brit, it sounds like he's a great person and you really get on and you obviously have a great sexual connection. Aren't you worried that you're sort of getting too attached to him?
I can see the logic in that, but that just doesn't feel right to me. I am a very instinctual person, so if something doesn't feel right to me, if my instinct is telling me this doesn't fit, then I don't force it. And it would feel like forcing it with anybody else. As I said before, I can see the logic behind what you're saying. But I don't know, I feel like this is the direction that my heart is telling me to go in. And if it turns out that something goes bad, I'll just have to deal with the consequences. But I don't think that that's going to happen. I mean, it is very possible. In fact, I would say it's probable that one day, maybe even soon, the Brit will find an actual girlfriend as opposed to a sugar baby, and then he'll have to say goodbye to me. But that's okay. That's part of what I've signed up for. This relationship that we have is a no strings attached relationship, and it doesn't matter how much you wind up liking the person. Can't change those rules. That's not fair. I wouldn't want him to do that to me. I wouldn't want him to start expecting things from me. So I can't do that to him. I really don't think that that's going to be a problem, because I am genuinely happy with favorite person. I don't want to leave favorite person. Like that thought has never even occurred to me. This is fun. It is what it is. And I'm very clear about what it is.
You don't feel that you will get to a point where you're thinking about him a lot more than you should, and it's kind of creeping into your everyday life?
Well, who's to say what is too much and whether or not I should be thinking about him? I mean, as long as it's not causing a problem in my life, then I'm okay with it. In fact, I really enjoy it. So what you're describing is exactly what's happening. I think about him all the time. I mean, especially after a night like we had last night. It was amazing. It was amazing. Totally incredible. I mean, I actually don't even have words to describe like how awesome I felt at one point. Like my entire body was just burning, but in a really good way. I understand why the French call it the little death, because at one point I really did feel like I was about to die, but I was so happy. I was happy I was about to die. Dopamine is popping in your brain like crazy, So just from a chemical standpoint, there's no way that I'm not going to get attached to him. But that's okay, because I understand what to do with that attachment.
Put it in a box. Put the box in a cupboard. Lock the cupboard. Burn the house down. No.
That's what's known as the patented ST method of repression.
Just to digress from the theme a bit, what kind of moves? You're talking about someone who's literally setting your body on fire.
Well, cool not literally. It's not like he's standing over me with a blowtorch.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, was there candle wax involved? I don't know. Did he have any particular moves that impressed you?
For me, it always starts with the kissing. I feel like we just don't kiss enough.
Yeah.
You get with a partner and, life is hunky-dory, and then it gets comfortable, and you kiss each other, but you don't really kiss.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Brit and I do constantly, and it is so wonderful. And I think that that's kind of the foundation on which the rest of the eroticism is built. He's always stroking my body, which is something I really like. Not necessarily touching an erogenous zone, but just like touching my hair or caressing my back or, running his hands down my legs. He's just constantly touching. And that also, it just wakes up your nerve endings. Everything is awake. Everything is kind of jumping and alive, saying, touch me, me next, A lot of it is chemistry between the two of us, but it's the attentiveness, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's how present we are with each other. And that's something that has been awakened again between Favorite Person and I because of what I do with other people. We don't take each other for granted anymore because of the third. It makes everything very intense and awake.
Does Favorite Person, how is it going with him? Because I know that there was a person he was seeing that he really was enjoying spending time with as well.
Yeah, they continue to see each other. He sees her once a week, and he really, really likes her. So I would say that the two of us are probably in the same place in terms of what we are experiencing with another person. The level at which I like the Brit, Favorite Person, and I call her Lolita. She's much younger than he is.
Right.
So he's embarking on his own journey, which is really nice because it allows the two of us to understand the other person very clearly. I go off and I have a wonderful lunch, an amazing night of, passion with someone, and I want to come home. Like, I was happy to arrive here at, 5:45 or whatever it was. I was so happy for Favorite Person to be touching me and have lust for me and, want to be with me like that. It's not as if I was with the Brit and thought like, oh man, now I have to go home. I drag myself away from him because I'm enjoying it, but the place where I'm going, I love it even more. Yeah.
Did you shower before you? Is that part of it that you still sort of smell like someone else?
Yeah. That's funny. You should ask. You're so perceptive. Yeah, I'm not allowed to shower in between.
So that's part of it. With regard to him, when he comes back from dating Lolita.
Yeah, for me, I do enjoy the physical part of it, but Favorite Person went out on his date the night before my date, and he was out very, very late. And when he came home, the two of us were quite tired. I couldn't really sleep while he was out. I'm really bad about that. I'm hoping that I'll get better at it, because he's going to continue to see this person, but so far, whenever he's out, I'm awake, and I was so happy for him to come home, and I just gave him hugs, gave him kisses, we cuddled and snuggled, and I asked him to just tell me in extreme detail, what he did. And
you don't get duplicitous at all?
No, not at all. I would say that keeping things back from each other, that is the number one way to make sure that this would not work.
Yeah.
He knows everything that I do. He condones everything that I do. I share everything. He knows me. He knows me inside and out. And I know him inside and out. And therein lies the joint life together. There's the sacred union between us.
You talked about your process. I'm not sure if we actually spoke on the actual podcast about your haggling process. I'm just trying to sort of keep it on the cash theme. Take us through the haggling process.
We're so transparent with each other at this point. It has become such habit for both of us to be like that. I would be able to tell that he feels uncomfortable. I wouldn't know what it is, of course, but I would sense that something's off, and then I would keep digging until he spilled the beans.
Now it's time for Ruby's 4-step program to getting what you want from a sugar daddy.
What I do is I have an email correspondence with someone and just find out whether I like him enough as a person. You know, is he interesting to talk to? Do we have the same taste in movies or books, music, traveling, whatever? And if the answer to all of that is yes, then either I'll suggest or perhaps he has suggested and I will agree to meet up for a coffee or a quick breakfast, you know, something that's very non-committal in terms of time. And then we meet and I find out if I'm attracted to him. So if the idea of kissing him, no matter how much money he's willing to give me, grosses me out, it's not going to happen. It is just not happening.
Do you ever kiss them on the actual coffee date, or is that?
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Nothing else.
Yeah.
But I think that having a first kiss is kind of nice because you can tell so much about what type of a lover a person is by how they kiss you. And, you know, oddly enough, the only sugar daddy that I have met for coffee that didn't kiss me was the Brit.
You had to sort of convince him to give you money and do that kind of...
Yeah. Yes, that's 100% correct. We email, we like each other, we meet for a coffee. Let's say that goes well. We kiss at the end of it if I find him attractive. Let's say that goes well. What I say to the sugar daddy is, okay, please send me an email, not a text message. Send me an email. That way I'll have it in writing, if you will. A proposal. Send me what you would like to set up as an arrangement. And every single one of them say, ooh, yeah, but can't you just tell me what you want? Because I have no idea. And ordinarily, my response to that is, no, a lady doesn't go first. And that always gets them. So they're like, oh, okay, all right. So then they send an email and they lay out what it is that they want. You know, how many times they want to see me, how much they want to pay me for an allowance, whether or not they want to travel or they expect that we would travel someplace together, things like that. And then I respond. So a really wonderful article that Madeleine found suggested that whatever your sugar daddy comes out with first as an allowance, that you should counter with a figure that is double what he suggested. I have only ever quadrupled the number. That is what I did with the Brit, by the way. He suggested a monthly allowance and I quadrupled it and he was like, whoa. That's a bit steep, not because I don't have the money, but just because the whole thing makes me feel uncomfortable. And so my suggestion to him was that he and I meet exactly in the middle from my starting point and his starting point as a gesture of good faith, that it would prove to me that he's willing to go outside of his comfort zone for me.
Basically, I'm terrible at haggling in any form. I just want to pay for something. I want to know what the price is and I want to pay for it, right? But I find it quite amusing that he is like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable with this whole idea of cash changing hands, you know? And I was kind of like, well, you're on it. You went to a sugar baby site. You know what I mean? It's not a huge surprise.
You can't be that uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
But I know that this is part of the dance, you know, it's part of the, oh, well, you know.
Yeah, let me act all coy now. Yeah, for sure.
If you didn't like him as much as you had, would you have pushed him more?
No, instead of quadrupling it, I would have gone down to triple. Yeah.
Can you tell us exactly how much you obviously don't put it in the currency of the place that you live, but put it into dollars?
Into dollars.
Yeah, if you can sort of approximate, we're talking about hard, cold cash in this episode.
Sure. Okay. Sure. So, my arrangement with the Brit is that we see each other once a week, and I get a monthly allowance of $1,500, which is really not that much.
I know. I was just thinking that doesn't seem like a huge amount of money. Is that so? How often would you see him? Once a week? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
once
so
a week.
I guess if you divide that by 4, that's
I think that's about. It's more than $300
per session. I suppose if it was like you were living off that, would be a bit tricky.
Yeah, I mean, Mankini, the amount that he agreed to was, if I put it into dollars, is $550 per session.
Yeah, but you were only going to see him once a month, weren't you?
That was the agreement in the beginning. That's right.
Do you think that he perhaps was a bit embarrassed by what happened last time?
Yeah, I think so. But before I came to this decision to be exclusive with the Brit, I did send Mankini a text message just to say hi and tell him I was thinking of him. And, it was a little bit flirty, trying to make him feel good about himself. And his response back was, "Oh, you're getting me hard. And it is hard now because I'm off the blood pressure pills."
Oh, God.
And I just thought,
That's quite funny,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's such a profoundly important thing to men, the whole virility thing and being able to,
Yeah, that's one of the things that just amazes me about the Brit. I mean, how many times can he get hard? It's just unbelievable. He's amazing.
I mean, does your favorite person not ever worry that you're kind of, when you come back with a story like that, I mean, I think any man, no matter how open-minded, would be a bit like, oh, God.
And that's exactly why he jumps on me. He has to reclaim me.
In a sense, it is sort of wiping out all traces of the other person.
This might be TMI for you, SD, but favorite person happens to be extremely well endowed. So I think that that's kind of a big thing for him, the fact that he is larger than any other. He's huge. I call it porn cock. He's got porn cock. And, it's a big thing for him to feel very masculine in the sense that he's larger than any other lover I've ever been with. So when we're together and he reclaims me, he really feels like, okay, I'm touching her in places that other people can't go.
Your esophagus. Ugh. Sorry, that was gross.
Literally.
Wow. Okay. So does he sort of get you to... So how big was the other guy exactly? I want inches, centimeters, whatever you use to...
Does he ask?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
He does, yeah. He does ask me. He asks me for a description.
I mean, not to get too graphic, but how does the Brit measure up?
I really like him. He's an average size, but he's circumcised, which I really like. And he kind of ever so slightly kind of bends up a little. Like, it's not weirdly bent, but it's kind of like, let me say curved. It's kind of like curved up, which is quite cool because if we're in the missionary position, it's like his cock is constantly bumping my G-spot. So, wow. That's amazing.
That sounds very... They should all be made like that, right?
Either like that or straight. If you find a cock that's like really weirdly bent, those are not so pleasant.
Yeah,
they pop out at weird times, and you're trying to give him a blowjob, and it just like it's uncomfortable because it keeps like hitting your back tooth or something.
How much does he spend on your dates, would you say? Is it kind of like a normal date, or does he take you to really fancy places, or do you have to rock up in a fancy ball gown, or?
Well, I haven't had to wear a ball gown thus far, but I do put a lot of effort into getting dressed up for him. So, yesterday was the whole work role play. So I wore an outfit that I used to wear when I worked in an office many moons ago. And it felt really nice to put it on again. Of course, I wore something that was quite sexy, but also very corporate-y looking. Put my hair up in a bun. He commented that I looked beautiful but severe. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I go for something that's different, you know. In my ordinary life, I wouldn't say that I look severe. I look very soft usually. So that was kind of cool. I think that he does probably wind up spending a good amount of money when we go out. And we always eat at really, really nice restaurants. He's a bit of a foodie. Choosing a restaurant is like very important. So I'm sure that was a pretty penny.
A pretty penny. It's an evocative phrase. Makes me think of the Brit showering ruby and gold coins as she lies on a hotel bed like a modern-day Danae. She's worth a lot of money to him, her time, access to her body. But to her, the money seems like it's starting to become immaterial. What will their relationship become in the weeks ahead? In a weird way, I feel like money is the one thing formalizing or minimizing what they're doing, making it trivial. If it's just about the money, then there are no real feelings involved. And yes, I am aware of the irony. As real emotion gets in the way of the prostitutional arrangement they share, so does the implicit threat to her marriage. Even Ruby goes out of her way to make it seem like a beautiful, luxurious dream that she doesn't want to think about too much or it might dissipate. That's the thing about filthy lucre, though. It's the one thing that drags everyone back down to earth. Is Ruby going to succumb to the gravitational pull of the Brit's heavenly body? To find out, stay with us. Next week, Madeline gives us the skinny on her own adventures. All that and more on the Sugar Baby Confessionals. This episode was produced and edited by me, Sarah Mae Tucson, with help from Beth Keane, Mike Scott, Geraldine Elliott, and Catherine Hoffmeyer. Music you've heard on this podcast comes from Danny Green's albums Obituaries and Laish, as well as Kristin McClement's album The Wild Grips. You can find out more about Laish by going to laishmusic.com. That's Laish music.com. And hear Kristin's work at kristinmcclement.com. Let us know if you're enjoying the podcast by emailing us on fablegazers@gmail.com. Why not join the conversation on Twitter? We're at @fable_gazers. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing always helps. Names and details have been changed to protect the anonymity of those involved. This has been a Fable Gazers production.